And here's the car that it's going into. 316 Ti in all its awesome power. Standard spec steel wheels, plastic hubcaps, just a grotty, abused shopping cart. Was damaged in the front. That's the bonnet that was on it. This is a 318 Ti motorsports car, so we're going to use some of the goodies off this one. I've already used the bonnet and the bumper and the lights, and I've taken the seats out, the steering wheel, and we'll also use the rear seats and probably the hood lining, probably the rear bumper, which we'll modify maybe to suit a twin exhaust. Probably don't have to actually. And yeah, maybe the silver door handles, a few other bits and pieces. But anyway, this car drives and goes, gutless as, motor's a little rattly, but it works. Anyway, that's the car, and we're going to change the front end, something a little different. Okay, here we have the replacement engine out of a 330 convertible, lowish kilometres. Got to clean it, don't work on grubby engines. Got to replace the oil filter housing gasket. The water pump feels a bit stiff, must have taken a whack. Other than that, it was running okay. Alright, here we go. Engine all cleaned, mostly. Okay, here we have manual gearbox from a 330. Was actually an SMG one, being converted to regular manual pattern with some new bits. 330 engine from a convertible, 117,000 Ks from a smashed car. Got to replace the oil filter housing bracket as it's broken here. Water pump feels a bit stiff. I think it maybe you've taken a knock, so I'll change that as well. Everything else looks pretty good. Gave it a good clean up yesterday. Part of the manual kit, some pedals, cross member, boot, clutch and flywheel. Reasonably new kit that was fitted not long before the car was written off. Bit of a story behind that one. And here's some of the other parts for the 330 engine parts, power steering, alternator, etc. And trailing arms, 330, rear brakes, front brakes there, and got a couple of options for the diff. We've got a 293 ratio manual or a 3.38 automatic diff, which is probably what I'm going to run, I think, for what we're going to do. Yeah, M3 parts car. Was thinking of using that engine instead, but decided it was a bit expensive, and I've already got one of these, so something different. Right, replacement oil filter housing here. I'll give that a clean up and replace the gasket in behind there. I was just pulling out the right one. There's a couple of different types. This one is a later one, which has the oil temperature sensor as well as the oil pressure switch. So yeah, that's the one that's got to be used. And yeah, here's a bit of a view of the underside of the yellow M3. Yeah, 6-speed manual car. Just remove the suspension out of it. That's gone to somebody else's car. And yeah, but there might be a few bits on here that we could use. The TI, maybe the exhaust system, not sure yet, we'll see. The brakes, maybe the front brakes. Can't use the rear end because the mounting system up here is different to the compact. The compact's shorter and the floor's at a different height, I think, so the mounting points are different, so unfortunately I can't use the whole rear end, which would have been nice because it has LSD, but anyway, we'll use something else for that. And the other thing I was going to use was these wheels are the wider rear ones all around, so try and get a set of these 8.5 inch front and back 255/40 tyres, which I think will be quite nice. Okay, here we have all faulty housing cleaned up. I'll replace this gasket here. This is a common source for oil leaks on the 6-cylinder motors. M52, M54s, they all use the same gasket, and after a while they just go hard and flat. This one's not too bad. This car done 100k, so it's still soft, but you'll find most of these will be needing replacement by now, if not done already. Yeah, so that's ready to go on at some stage. Okay, right, well here we have the 330 engine and a flywheel and clutch here. Just got to take the automatic flex plate off, so just do that now. Seal looks good. Got to put a thrust bearing into there and bolt the flywheel up. Okay, so here we have the flywheel and clutch kit. This is used, but it was fairly new before the car got written off. I'll have to clean these up a little bit though. It's a new spigot bearing, not thrust bearing, just a standard SKF bearing. You can get the sizes off the internet, and that just needs to be hammered into there. Use an appropriate socket size, and you can just tap that in. Tap that most of the way home. That should be fine. I'll just give these a clean up with a wire brush. Just thought I'd show you the back of this flywheel. It's a light and solid mass unit, replaces the dual mass system. You can see there it's hollowed out. I think this weighs about 6.5 or 7 kilos, so yeah, help the engine rev a little bit quicker. That's just been cleaned up a little bit, and the surface of that, pressure plate, and plenty of meat left on that. So yeah, that's good to bolt on now, and you have a locating dowel here, so you need to make sure you get one of these holes is bigger, as you can see here. Yeah, so you just need to line that one up on the locating dowel. It's on there like that, and the manual bolts are a bit longer. If you had a dual mass flywheel, they'd be even longer again, and they just need to be screwed in there. Should probably Loctite them in, but I don't know, never had an issue. So yeah. Okay, so just put the flywheel on, clutch plate with the clutch aligning tool in there, and just hand tightening these Allen keys, bolts up to hold the pressure plate to the flywheel, and then we'll torque those up. That's that. Okay, clutch and flywheel are on. Pulled the guide unit out. I just thought I'd show you something in the gearbox in here. This pin here is an often thing that needs to be replaced. They wear down over time with just the pivoting action from the clutch slave cylinder. Sorry, slave cylinder. And it pivots on there, and it just wears on here. So it pays quite a bit of grease, but you can also replace this bush here. Not that expensive, but it can cause the clutch to do some weird things if it's worn down and on the wrong sort of angle. So yeah, it sits in there like that, and this guide's in there like that, but probably a little bit of grease on there wouldn't hurt. Right, so that's greased up in there, so that's sliding nicely. Not too much, because you don't want it flicking out and going into the clutch disc. That won't be good. Right, now the gearbox should in theory, slide on to the onto the engine, providing this is lined up in there, which is hopefully what's going to happen. We'll give it a go. And just like that. Try and do that under the car though, not always the easiest. Certainly, a lot easier when the engine is out, but because you're not holding the gearbox above your head. Anyway, I'll put some bolts in there and tighten that up. Okay, gearbox is on. Just doing up the last couple little bolts. These are Torx. This is a Torx 10. These are Torx 12s, and the others are Torx 14s. Some of the manual gearbox bolts are different lengths to the automatic, but I think only 2 of them are different in actual length. So yeah, so these are going on, and I think next thing to do is bolt the replacement oil filter housing on to replace the damaged one. I think I'll leave the ancillaries off, the power steering, aircon and the alternator off, because I need to work around the engine, and it's easy to load it in the car when they're not there, so I'll leave that till later. Guibo looks good on this one, and all this was brand new. It looks like I think that might be a Z3 shifter with a reasonably long shaft here, so it's quite short, so that'll be quite cool. I think that needs to go that way around, like that, and new bushes and washers here. This all just helps that the gear lever have less play in it. You know, just a little bit of movement here, only a millimetre can make, you know, 20 mils movement up here, so it's important that all this is really tight. There are upgraded systems you can buy which lock a lot tighter and stuff like that, but that'll work fine. Anyway, next bit. Okay, just replacing the oil filter housing. So I've got this damaged piece here where the I think that's the power steering pump's mounted here, and the chassis rail I think might have come across and smashed it or something. Anyway, so that's the replacement oil filter housing. There's the replacement new gasket. Already pulled the old one out. It's a bit hard and flat, and new one just goes in there like that. And we just undo these. There's also the oil line up in here, which goes to the Vanos control unit. There's also 2 sensors, so we've got the oil pressure switch and oil temperature sensor, and yeah, so we just get this oil line off first, and then we've got basically 6 bolts that hold the housing on. So that's out. There's going to be some oil that's probably going to come out, and good to go. I'll just whip this off, and so that comes away like that. A bit of dribble and bolts, yeah, and as you can see, this gasket's really flat. I noticed when this engine came out it was low Ks, but a lot of oil around this area, down here and up around this area, and it generally is the seal, because there's oil pressure here, so it's, and it just pumps past it. So a lot of people think it's the front crank seal, but quite often it's just this. You know, it's a $20 seal, and away you go. So that's chunk. And that's the replacement unit. I'll just clean this all up. Okay, just cleaned that up. The other thing to take note of, these bolts they come in different lengths, so one of them's really long, but you make sure that they all stick out the same length here, and that simply gets bolted back on there. There's a couple of locating dowels, so take care to get those in the right, make sure they go on. Okay, problem here. Okay, that's all done up now. So that's that part ready. So alternator wires here, obviously got the power steering to go there. Yeah, I think we'll leave most of that for now. Oh, we'll change the water, we'll check the water pump anyway. I didn't like the way that one felt, and by the looks of that pulley, it's a little bent. So we'll take this off and have a look at it, change that out. Okay, so I'm just going to take the water pump pulley off. Looks like somebody's already replaced that pulley. Got some writing on it from a wrecker, but yeah, I'll just pull this out and have a look at it. Nice, really nice design, this system they use. Just 4 bolts, and then all you do is you use these bolts or some longer ones and screw them in here, and it just pries it out. But we might be able to get this off with just a bit of a lever. We'll see. Nope. Anyway, let's get some bolts and do that properly. Okay, so I've just got a couple of random 10mm bolts. I'll just screw those in there, and one on the other side. Get it in there. And no, it's about 10 more bolts. Okay, right, take 2. Right. So you just screw those in like that, and it just slowly pulls it out. And that's that, and some yucky water comes out. Lovely. Yeah, I think we'll change that one. Yeah, motor has been sitting around for a while, so it's just, yeah, yuck. I think I pulled this engine probably out of a car, I don't know, it might have been 2 years ago now. I've been holding it for a rainy day project, so there you go. But yeah, we'll chuck another pump in there. I don't like the look of that. I think the bearing's probably a bit rusty sitting there, and something's a bit bent, I think. So while it's out, we'll just change it. Alright, so replacement pump, and it goes which way? This way, it's at the bottom, I think. Just like that. Some nuts on the front, and that's that. Simple.